Hello everybody and welcome to the life of a board gamer. My name is Daniel and today we are going to paint Scout from the Pit the board game. It's fairly easy miniature as all these characters from these games are. So let's get to it. So I just started talking without pressing the record button. And the first step is we are going to use a field blue and we are going to paint all over his under armor or his clothes or whatever you want to call it. And we are going to apply 2 thin coats just to give it nice smooth coverage. And don't forget there's some on the back and his trousers. When that is finished, we are going to use a deep green and we are going to paint all over his armor with the deep green. And you will probably need 2 or maybe even 3 thin coats depending on which green color you use, because they don't cover very well sometimes. With armor done, we need to highlight all the recesses that he has around his uniform and his armor. So we are going to use a null oil and you will just be very careful and go and highlight just these recesses. If you go a bit over it, doesn't matter because we are going to highlight further, so that's not a mistake, but try to be as neat as possible about it. Wash is complete and all dried up, and now we are starting to see some details. But the next step, we have to highlight these armor parts, and for that we are going to use light green, and you are just going to highlight all over the raised parts and where there's these edges, and just be very neat about it. Don't do it like I just did. I'll have to come and repair this because you see I went a bit too heavy, so you have to be neat about it just to give it a subtle highlight. And on the armor parts you can just go with the side brush like this and give it a highlight. When we are done with the highlighting of all the green parts, we also did some battle damage or wear out effect. It's just you do it, it's really easy. You just pull down few streaks while you are highlighting, just go over it. You see over on hand how I did it. It's really easy and very effective. And the next step is we are going to highlight all of his under armor or clothes or whatever it is, and for that we are going to use a neutral gray. And basically you are going to do everything you did so far with the green, but just with the neutral gray. You will highlight his pants, like you see he has this line going over here, and you just go and highlight on one side very lightly and on the other side, just so you bring it out a bit, nothing much. And you do that around the armor. You can add also that battle damage if you want to. So highlights are complete, and while you are using a neutral gray, stay on it for a while and just paint the base with it, and be very careful not to go over the miniature legs and mess up your work, because that would not be good. With those highlights done, we are going to now work on his orbs that he has on his forehead, and we are going to paint them with the sky gray and then just highlight them a little bit with the white. So be very neat when you are doing this, because you don't want to mess up the work you did so far, and just neatly as possible paint those orbs. With sky gray done, you are going to use just a little bit of white to highlight it, and you will just put a little dot on the upper right side, nothing much. You can even go like this a little bit downwards, but the dot should work just fine. To start painting the weapons, we are going to use a gun metal, and we are going to paint the entire weapon with it. So the knife and the gun, we are going to completely cover it with this color. And be very careful when you do this to not mess up what you already done with the miniature. With that done, we are going to use a true copper, and we are just going to select a few parts here and there and paint them with the copper color. And I want to paint the entire handle of the knife, and I also want to paint this part of the gun over here, this recoil, don't know how do you call this part, and this handle that is sticking right here. I want to paint that one too. And one last thing, we are going to use a plate mail metal and highlight all these weapons, his knife and his gun. Now these are really small, you could use a dry brush, but it would be really tricky, so just give it a highlight like we did with the green and with the gray colors, and you just go sideways with your brush and give it a subtle highlight, and it will look really great. You also highlight these copper parts, why not? Just be very careful not to mess up anything else. And you don't have to do it all around, you can just go over, let's say, this part, make it worn out a bit, maybe do a little streaks like battle damage or something. It's really up to you what you want to do with it. And with that part done, the scout is complete. I hope you like this tutorial, and until next time, pozdrav!